Good evening. I'm calling the Monday, October 12th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting to order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have any requests for changes or additions? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
All right, motion from Commissioner Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Higgins. All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Moving on, we have minutes from the meeting held Monday, September 28th, 2020. Do I have any requests for edits or concerns or omissions? Or
I noted one, item A. It just said gymnasiums instead of, or said gymnastics instead of gymnasiums. I don't know if that's a huge issue or not.
I
but-
believe that was caught by staff.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Did I miss that? Sorry.
It wasn't announced.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no others, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Motion from Commissioner Higgins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gooding. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from the 28th are passed. All right, moving on. We have one public hearing this evening. This is Tiller Corporation Plant 912 2019-24. This is a request for a zoning district change from public to industrial on 4.49 acres. Zoning district change from rural to industrial on 1.09 acres. Site plan review on 13.21 acres. Preliminary plat for approval on 13.21 acres. Will the proponent of the project please come forward? Good evening. If you would, state your name and spell it for the record and tell us about your project, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, my name is Mike Karen. I'm with Tiller Corporation. Our main office is at 7200 Hemlock Lane, Suite 200 in Maple Grove, Minnesota. With me tonight is Christina Morrison. Christina works with me in our land use department, and also with me is Kirsten Pauley, our consulting engineer and geologist. She's actually worked with our company on projects for over 20 years, so she's familiar with us and our projects. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to share with you this evening.
Sounds good.
So our project is at 6140 Industrial Drive here in the city. That site has an asphalt plant and a recycling yard in it. What I'd like to do is just kind of go through with you. First of all, some information about Tiller, the history of our site and how it's laid out today. Some of the proposed improvements and changes we're talking about, and then talk briefly on the zoning changes, the preliminary plat, and then of course at some point if you have questions of us, we're here to answer those this evening. So Tiller Corporation was founded in 1946, family-owned company. It still is today. It has 3 divisions: Barton Sand and Gravel Company, which operates around 20 sand and gravel sites, sand and gravel mines, mostly in the metro, 7-county metro, and some of the surrounding counties. We do get as far west as Stearns County and as far north as Mille Lacs County. They also, as I mentioned, we do the recycling here. All of our sand and gravel sites engage in recycling concrete and asphalt, and it's grown to be about 25% of our business each year as far as tons sold. Commercial asphalt is our division that operates the asphalt plants. We have 10, and again, mainly in the 7-county metro. Like the sand and gravel, we recycle asphalt there. And again, that's grown to be about 25% of the 20%, I'm sorry, of the total tons we sell annually. Final thing is our tank farm. The tank farm is located at the south end of St. Paul along the Mississippi River. Can store 26 million gallons of petroleum products. The petroleum product we store there is the asphalt cement for the plants. That site is unique in that we can get the products in by barge on the river, by rail, and by truck. And then, of course, we ship it out from there to our 10 plants. We currently employ over 250 people company-wide. You know, that includes our operators, electricians, mechanics, our IT department, our sales department, scale operators. We have an extensive quality management program so that we can test our products to make sure that they're meeting the standards that they have to. So that includes all of our QM folks. The one thing about us that makes us unique is that we are a supply-only company. We don't build projects. So if the city has a project, our customers would come to us and ask for a quote for the products, and then we would supply the products to that customer who would build your project. So I think I'd like to talk some now about the history of Plant 912. You know, that site has been active with an asphalt plant and construction aggregates since the 60s, and as I've talked about the recycling again, that started fairly big in the 80s and has steadily grown since then. We acquired the full operation in mid-2013, and then in 2017 is when we added the Hennepin County property. One of our main focuses when we first acquired that property was to address some stormwater management things. We had to get a lot of things put together, but before we felt we could do that good. And as we were talking about that, our operations people said, well, if we're going to be making some changes down there, let's think about plant and equipment updates also. So that's kind of how this whole thing came together. I met with city staff in early 2018 to review it. They mentioned some concerns that they had. They mentioned the placement of our existing scale. They talked about some of the screening, talked about our lots and the configuration of them, and we'll talk more about that. But I think we're finally have the results that we've worked on, and some of the improvements that I want to highlight are the improved stormwater management, the state-of-the-art equipment, and the improvement of and the safety and efficiencies of the site. So this is just an air photo of the site. Industrial Boulevard is the street that leads to the site, and then Indian Chief Road that's the railroad. There you go. Indian Chief Road is there. Edendale Boulevard is at that curve down at the end there. And then the Hennepin County Rail Authority has the trail system that runs alongside it there. So if you've used the trail at all, you've seen our property. The black lines that you're seeing there indicate all of the different parcels. So as you can see, there's 5 separate parcels, irregularly shaped. Some are small, not consistent with cities' minimum lot sizes, and not consistent with access to public roadways. So those are some of the concerns that staff pointed out that we're trying to correct. To show you the existing plant layout, probably start at the right side of that page, That's the scale that the city was talking about. They would like to get that moved away from the right-of-way. The building that is shown in green, that is actually what we call our QM lab. The scale house is in there. And we also have our control tower for the asphalt plant in there. Then we have the AC tanks, just down towards the bottom there. That's where those exist right now. There's, it gets kind of tight around the plant there, but we show the mixer, and with the mixer that there's actually a tower there with the silos that stores the asphalt before it gets dumped into the trucks, and with that there's also a scale. And then it's not labeled there, but just next to that is the dryer that's used to dry the aggregates and mix the asphalt cement in with them to make the final product. We then, of course, have our bag house, which is the pollution control equipment. The recycle bins are next to that, and that's where we put in the recycled products that go into the mix. And then we have 2 sets of cold feed bins there, and that's where the raw aggregates get fed to the plant. The other thing that's shown there is an unloading system. That's for the incoming products that we stockpile. As we look at the new layout, we've got a spot for a proposed unloader, but we may not install that. We're finding that we can probably be just as efficient without that system. So that's the way that the whole site is set up now, and I think if you look at the plans, you can see that we've just kind of shifted everything a little bit further away from Edendale Boulevard. So this is what we're proposing. So again, we have the control tower in QM are in one building again, but then we've moved the scale office to be right alongside the silos. So there's scales there, there's the silos, and then the scale house is right next to it, that little green box. The AC tanks are to the left of those. And then there's a building there called the MCC. That's the motor control center. So that's where all of the equipment is for the power that will control the motors for the plant. Currently, that's kind of split up into a couple of different spots, and we find it better if we can place it all in one location. We then have the drum or the mixer. That's where everything gets combined. The bag house, the recycle bins, and the cold feed bins. So again, it's the same equipment, just new equipment, and the location has changed. So this is our site plan, and again, I think the key things I want to point out here are the termination of Industrial Drive. There's a cul-de-sac there now. One of the comments we got from city staff was that there's really no clear distinction between public and private roads, the way it's set up right now, and so they encouraged us to include the cul-de-sac. So we do have a cul-de-sac there. That will become city right-of-way if everything's approved. We added a small stormwater pond for kind of the right side of our site, as it's shown on this diagram. The road, the yellow line that goes around is kind of showing you how the traffic will circulate. So it'll come in, go all the way around, and if we decide to put an unloading system in, it'll be that blue box down there. But again, that's not certain. Then the traffic can either go and get their asphalt products and exit, or they can go straight ahead there, and that's where we'll have the recycle products that we currently have at the far end of the site now. Then as we get up towards the wetland, you can see we've got another stormwater pond up there. So we're going from no stormwater ponds to two stormwater ponds. Kirsten worked very hard in designing this for us just to make sure that we're meeting the treatment needs. So essentially the stormwater pond by the cul-de-sac will drain to the larger stormwater pond, and then both of them eventually discharge to the wetland. I just want to touch briefly on the rezoning. So again, and I think you have probably seen this in your packet, currently parcel A is zoned public and parcel B is rural. All the balance of our properties are zoned general industrial, which is consistent with adjacent parcels. So if the proposed zoning change goes forward, both parcel A and B would be general industrial, which again is consistent with your comp plan and consistent with adjacent parcels. So again, talking about the existing parcels, as I mentioned, there are 5 of them, and again, you can see irregularly shaped on some of them, probably all of them for that matter. They don't. They're substandard in shape, substandard in size to meet city code. So with that, we looked at doing a parcel combination. City staff preferred doing a plat, so we have moved forward with a plat. So all of the internal parcel lines will go away. The right-of-way for the cul-de-sac will get dedicated to the city. The wetland and the wetland buffer that's being proposed will be situated in Outlot A. Then I think with that, I'd just like to show you an example. This happens to be our asphalt plant in Blaine. That plant was constructed in 2019 and 2020, and then we replaced some of that equipment back in 2013. So that's kind of the look that you'll have with the asphalt plant that we're proposing. This is just kind of another look at it from a different angle. Of course, our buildings will look a little bit different than this, but just to kind of give you a feel of what the asphalt plant is expected to look like, I thought this would help. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm finished, and I can either take questions now or later at your preference.
Great, thank you. Any initial questions, Mr. Chair? Commissioner Meddy.
Thank you for the presentation. That was very informative. My question, or I guess, the concern that kind of comes to mind with this is, the dust that might be created by the dirt and moving the dirt and whatnot. It looks like you might have to move some of the existing stockpile around a little bit with this equipment move. Can you explain if there's dust control measures done or how that process works?
Sure.
If you're living nearby, are you going to have to shut your windows for 2 weeks while this happens, or what's sort of that process?
So again, our stockpiles, and I get this from our operations guys, when we talk about stockpiles, they keep telling me that you can't think of a stockpile as a noun. A stockpile is a verb because it's constantly changing. It's always going up and down, and it's always moving. So even though it looks like we have to change things around a lot there right now, we're constantly changing things around with our stockpiles. But I think more importantly, you should understand that we have to have an air quality permit for the plant as well as our stockpiles and our recycle operations. And those permits require certain things have to be done in order to make sure that we don't have the ambient dust. Majority of the materials that we have there have a moisture content of from 3 to 5%. And typically that will handle it. When you start moving a lot though, then yes, you can get some dust, but we always have a water truck on site and we always keep things watered. One of the other changes we'll be making here is not all of the roadways at our existing site where trucks can travel, where loaders travel, are paved. And we have found that it's much easier to control dust and stay within our permit standards if we keep those paved, and then we sweep them at minimum once a week and sometimes more often.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure. Commissioner
Will there be any change in the noise? I live close by, and I notice the noise. So with new equipment, will you have any change?
So-
Will the noise
so-
go down?
As far as noises, no. I mean, the equipment, well, I take that back. It could actually be quieter because the asphalt drum that we're putting in with the dryer is designed to keep most of the noise inside. The dryer we have there now is pretty good, but this one will be better. As far as the other activities that we're doing there, we're not expecting any changes. I should probably just go back for a minute, if you don't mind. So down by the intersection of Edendale Boulevard and Indian Chief Road, so that would be at the lower left-hand side of the photo. Right now, that's the area that is used to stockpile some material that we use to, we call it a chunk pile. So it's chunks of concrete, asphalt that we then crush up. Because we're removing some trees to construct the stormwater pond, we have to have a tree replacement plan. One of the things we heard from city staff was trying to get better screening from the streets over there. So our tree replacement plan will be in that corner right there. So the screening should be better. The vegetation doesn't always help noise, but sometimes it can. So.
Thank you.
Other questions right away? I had just a question. I thought I saw a truck in one of the images. Is the truck route the same as what it is currently that's proposed?
No. The truck route right now is pretty random. And that's why we're trying to improve the safety and efficiency so we can keep the trucks away from our loaders. We can keep the loaders away from the trucks. But right now, we do have some of the areas that we have designated for the truck route would be consistent, but a lot of it is changed from what exists today.
Thank you. Other initial questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, will you be handling the staff
Yes, sir.
discussion?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Mr. Karen gave a very thorough response, or overview, I should say. Before you this evening is a request to rezone a couple of parcels. One is currently zoned public, the other is zoned rural. They are being asked to be rezoned to general industrial, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and staff does recommend approval of that request. In addition, they are proposing to preliminary plat the property, so they've got those 5 parcels that were overviewed, and combining those into one lot and an outlot. The wetland area would remain in an outlot with a conservation easement over it as well. So staff does recommend approval of that request. Then lastly, they are asking for a site plan approval. This site, as Mr. Karen mentioned in his comments, has been in operation since the 1960s, and it does not have a current site plan approval in place, because it has been in existence for quite some time. So as a part of this process, we will be reviewing it from a site plan perspective, and staff does recommend approval of the site plan as proposed. It does meet all of the setback requirements and other performance standards required by code for the buildings and other materials on site. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Julie or City?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Farr.
Julie, can I ask a couple questions about this new terminus for Industrial Drive, the cul-de-sac? On the preliminary plat, it looks like the design is an offset design as opposed to a symmetrical or teardrop-shaped cul-de-sac. It looks like the property lines, though, that exist now suggest a more conventional symmetrical cul-de-sac design offering access to their neighbors to the west. And on the preliminary plat, there's 2 lots right across the street from them called Tract B, is that triangular portion right in the middle of the V of this subject property. And then there's a Tract A above that to the north. And those 2 lots have limited frontage onto that industrial drive. And so I guess I want to know, are we okay with the remaining frontage to both of those lots so that they're not non-conforming all of a sudden or not continuing non-conforming? And if there's a reason for the offset cul-de-sac, I'll stop there. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, with regard to the design questions, I'm going to defer those to Mr. Ruth, city engineer. With regard to the non-conforming question, I don't believe we're creating any additional nonconformities or new nonconformities out in this area. The cul-de-sac, as it's proposed, improves that situation, frankly, and would also provide access to any adjoining parcels. But I'll defer the questions on design to Mr. Rue.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the cul-de-sac is designed is I guess, consistent with the property that is owned by the proponent. So over the years, there's been, I guess, some title issues or ownership issues for Industrial Drive because it's been so old, and there's a lot of tracts that are tracts of property that are either owned by the city or owned by others. So this kind of cleans everything up and provides a cul-de-sac that is offset, and we do have offset cul-de-sacs elsewhere in the city. It's not unusual, and it meets our standards for radiuses and so forth. So,
Okay. In follow-up with that, and I'm okay with offset cul-de-sacs just fine, but there's a Tract O that's there on the other side of the road, and that's I didn't know if that was private or public property that would offer the access to that Tract B back there.
yeah, I don't see that shown on the
Okay.
graphic that's up here, but that's where some of the ownership issues are. Is some of
Yep.
those tracks, they appear to be right away, but they're publicly owned, but they're not.
Okay, well, somewhere between preliminary plat and final plat, that'll all be fleshed out, I'm certain. Maybe Kristen Pauly has some comments on that as well with the preliminary plat diagram, but,
Yeah, they may be able to answer some detailed questions about the ownership
okay.
there,
But at least it meets all city standards.
yes.
Thank you. That's good.
All right, this is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to come forward and speak for or against this project, please do so now. Not seeing any, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing, continue any discussion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Commissioner Marcos, do I have a second to close the public hearing?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Kirk, all those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone want to abstain? All right, public hearing is closed. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Kirk.
Julie, I'm just going to try to clarify this in my mind, and hopefully you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. It sounds like the zoning and the replatting are, not to underestimate them, but are more housekeeping issues, just to bring all of the land in under a single plat and under consistent zoning that is also consistent with our guide plan. That's a correct assumption?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I think that's a good simplistic way to view this by eliminating those lot lines and providing for consistent zoning across the entire, I'm going to call it campus. That means that the same Setbacks will apply. You won't have setback requirements kind of bisecting the property where those property lines currently occur. So yes, it kind of cleans the slate up a little bit if that's how you want to look at it.
No, that's exactly what I was trying to say. So the other one is then the site plan. And what I'm inferring, I probably should know this, but what I'm inferring from what you said is that it's a requirement to have a site plan, and this property, basically any action on this property predated that, so there was just no site plan. So this is just an opportunity to ensure that we have an appropriate site plan, and that site plan is consistent with city ordinances and practices, which it obviously is, since there are no, what do I want to say? What's the term I want to use?
Waivers.
Pardon?
Waivers.
Waivers, thank you. So that again is just bringing things kind of up to speed and frankly allowing the city to have some input as to where the equipment and buildings are on the site.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I think that's a very eloquent description of what the site plan process is achieving in this instance. As Commissioner Kirk said, because the site's been in operation since the 1960s, which predated the city's first zoning ordinance, there wasn't a site plan approval that was put in place back at the time they began operations, and city code does require that if you're constructing any buildings, that a site plan process is required if you don't already have one that notes those buildings or those general locations. So that's what has triggered this site plan review process, and as Commissioner Kirk stated, it allows the city to have some input as to consistency with regulations and policies that we have in place.
Thank you.
Other discussion or questions or? Commissioner Mady?
My only thought was I really like the addition of the doing the cul-de-sac at the end of that road. I used to bring my dog to the daycare place down there, and you can't tell where the road ends and their property begins, and it's kind of confusing. So I think that will really clean things up, along with just cleaning up the parcels themselves.
Comments or discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm supportive of this. Appreciate the investment in a site in Eden Prairie, updating equipment, and it sounds like the city is getting appropriate levels of input and to make it a win-win. So it sounds like a good one to me.
All right. Seeing a lot of head nods, would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I would like to move to recommend approval for a zoning district change from public to industrial on 4.49 acres, zoning district change from rural to industrial on 1.09 acres, site plan review on 13.21 acres, and preliminary plat on 13.21 acres based on plans stamped dated October 7th, 2020, and the staff report dated October 12th, 2020.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Farr for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Toomey with a second. All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? All right. Congratulations, you're moving forward. Thank you for such a nice presentation and all the work.
We appreciate your time tonight.
Take care. Have a good evening. All right, moving on. Do we have a planner's report tonight?
No, sir.
All right, any members' reports? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Motion from Commissioner Kirk. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Marcos. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.